Hi, everyone. We've got an awesome panel group here. We're going to be talking about blockchain and gaming in Africa. I'll quickly introduce myself. I'll be moderating the panel, and then we'll go around the room, and everyone else here can introduce themselves. And we should be having one more joining us here shortly. So I'm Jackson Vaughan. I'm from Konvoy Ventures. We're a venture fund focused and dedicated to gaming. We invest globally and have made investments in Africa, just specifically Carry First. And I'll let Cordel kick off the next set of introductions. Yeah.
Bloody favoritism.
These are the perks of having Konvoy on the cap table. Hi, everyone. I'm Cordel, co-founder and CEO of Carry First. We're a regionally focused game publisher focused on Africa and develop some technology to help improve monetization across the continent. So very happy to be here.
Jay, you want to go next?
Sure, thank you. So I'm Jay Shapiro. I am here in Nairobi, Kenya. I'm the chairman of PAG, the Pan-Africa Gaming Group, also founder and CEO of Usiku Games in Kenya. We are the largest gaming company in Africa now, with operations in 10 countries, a few hundred people, more than 100 games published. And we really focus very much on, Usiku's focus is very much on social impact gaming. So games that are educational or have a behavior change element to it. And we're moving full on now into blockchain gaming. I'm happy to talk about it today.
Awesome, Jay. And just a reminder for all the other panelists, just to go on mute when we're not talking, just because I think there's a little bit of feedback. Tessy, do you want to go next?
Sure, I'm Tessy Mosindi. I'm founder and CEO of Kingdom of Kush. We leverage blockchain technology with our expertise in gaming to champion diversity. So I want to see a lot of diverse characters, people like myself, in gaming, and really empower things like education and other kind of like Usiku, other issues. I'm also founder of Educating Africa, disadvantaged girls, by sending them to school and through technology. And that's mostly it for me. And for my people, how far? But I'm doing that at the moment. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Tessy. James, you want to go next?
Yeah, no, I love Tessy's intro. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm James, co-founder and CEO of Jambo. Sweden short is we're building the Web3 super app of Africa. Our mission is to onboard the next millions of users from Web3, from Africa to Web3, essentially be the bridge to bring the best Web3 products and services to the region. Happy to be on the panel with everyone here.
Cool. Thanks, James. Yele.
Hi, everyone. I'm Yele, founder of Nestcoin and also founding partner Microtraction. Nestcoin is a holding company that builds, operates, and invests in Web3 products that are trying to make the ecosystem a lot more accessible to every single person on the continent. Microtraction is an early stage fund that invests in sort of general tech companies across the continent as well. In terms of gaming, I'm a founding member of MVM, which is a gaming DAO that is using sort of play to earn and free to play games to onboard Africans into crypto. Good to be here.
Cool. Awesome, Yele. So I'll kick it off with our first question, which is, it's really about, the future of blockchain gaming in Africa, and what are you most excited about in that context? And maybe we can hear from you first, Jay.
Sure. So, I think when we look at blockchain as a whole, in the West, most of the focus from the media has really been around speculation and trading, right? Everybody wants to know what's the price of Bitcoin today. And what's interesting is that really in the developing markets, particularly here in Africa, we're much more focused on utility and looking at what the applications of the blockchain are. And really, there's so much value to having it here. And so play to earn while it's kind of cool as a concept, maybe in some Western countries, here it makes a big difference for people, and we've seen that certainly with Axie in the Philippines, where people are using it as a primary salary as well. So I'm really excited to see how things are developing here, and it's particularly how blockchain as a whole, and we run PAG as a DAO as well. We'll talk about that. Allows us to, if you will, get around some of the challenges of Africa, from a bureaucracy, corruption, legal regulation structure, that kind of thing. And so, so I think there's just a huge amount of potential here.
No, that's awesome, Jay. Tessy, how would you?
Completely agree with Jay, especially in regards to empowerment for non-traditional forms of earning money. Definitely blockchain gaming gives everyone access, and hopefully women as well, girls, as they're coming out of university, for example. I really like what Yele is doing, providing scholarships as well, so that way people that don't access necessarily can have access. Me seeing a shift. I was around when Afrobeats wasn't popular. So people don't know I used to be an Afrobeats musician before Afrobeats was cool. And at that point, there was a turn in music. It took lots and lots of investment. And I think with the rise of the casual gaming mobile, we see gaming become cool. You're wasting your time. It's something that people are now starting to enjoy as well. And that blockchain gaming will bring empowerment to a lot of different types of people. As long as the access is there, I think it will be there for hyper-casual gaming, if also other sectors that we need investment for, basically. So I agree with you, Jay, and well done with NVM as well. I really like that concept of funding to really disparity for the divide in these technologies.
Yeah, Yele, maybe, on that point, one thing that would be interesting to hear about is, what about this future of blockchain gaming that we see across the world, but what's unique in Africa? And with MVM, what are you trying to go?
Yeah, I think it's super exciting. Generally, I would say I'm kind of like a late entrant into gaming, in the terms of sort of thinking about it through crypto, and it was over the last, like 7 to 12 months that I really began to understand what the potential for, the intersection of gaming and crypto could be, right? So previously I ran Bundle, which scaled to around 500,000 users, mainly in two markets, Nigeria and Ghana. For context, right now with MVM, we have sort of gamers in almost sort of 14 to 15 different countries. And you've seen sort of like that impact for scale. Right. And, the types of users that we.
Did we just lose Yele?
I thought that.
No. Oh, he's gone.
All right.
He was dialing in from heaven, to be fair. So
the background, right? Well, the other question I wanted to sort of, to jump to from that was sort of timing, and Yele was starting to get at that. I'd be curious to hear from you, James, as well on is now the right time to bring blockchain gaming to Africa, or should we be waiting a bit?
No, for sure. I think that's a great question. Maybe I'll just even start off a little broader, right? Let's take I don't know how anyone can not be excited for a region like Africa. If you just strip away the name Africa, right? If you just look at the statistics of a continent of 1.4 billion people, 75% of the population, closer to 19, you're at almost 200 million gamers, and 50% of the population has access to smartphones. If you replace Africa in anything, I don't know how any gaming company or anyone doesn't see the opportunity here. So in that regard, I think, Africa is ripe for disruption there. Regarding the timing, I think maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, the infrastructure might not have been right. But thanks to the rise of, certain tech giants today, we have gotten, such as techno, games, mobile phones, smartphone penetration to close to 50%. I think Cordel and I had a, great call the other day where we're like, games that, require 4 gigs, 5 gigs of downlink space just won't work for Africa. Maybe 100 megabytes. That's the type of phone. What would Axie Infinity run on if we even go to Web3 right now? In the Philippines, maybe you have the luxury of working with certain Samsungs, other Android phones. But in Africa, it might be a Tecno M7, at a 200 kilobyte per second internet speed. What does that look like? So Africa, on another regard, if I zoom out, it's the continent of 55, nations, different fiat currencies, different people. I grew up in Congo. My mother tongue is French, and Lingala. You go to Kenya, that's Swahili, English. West Africa is French again. It's just very different. You can't really group Africa as just one region. There's no one size fits all. So in my mind, honestly, for anyone to know whether right now is the time or not, is to honestly do work like A/B test and gather data points in each different region.
Yeah, that's super interesting, and I do have some some knowledge from Cordel and Carry First about sort of pursuing that sort of A/B testing right across regions. One thing I've kind of been thinking about is how blockchain and gaming is a very new concept, right, and a new market segment within gaming as a whole. But gaming as a whole is also still pretty early in the African context, and so you can think of the gaming market is worth roughly 200 billion-ish, maybe close to that. And, a few billion of that is earmarked, in Africa and the Middle East. How do you think about, and Cordel, this is sort of a question, I'd like to pose to you, is how do you think about the growth of traditional games across these different regions and these different submarkets of Africa on the continent, right, compared with blockchain games specifically? Is it a force multiplier that will accelerate the growth? Is it a distraction? How do you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to accelerate the rate of adoption of gaming in the region. I see blockchain gaming kind of like mobile free-to-play 10 to 15 years ago. You had console gaming, you had PC. People, if you ask people, what do you want? They would have said, I want like a better, PC game. But then mobile brought in a brand new mode of playing and made it much more accessible. And suddenly now you had not just young white men playing games, you had older people playing games, you had women playing games at more than 50% the rate of the total. And I think blockchain basically kind of like opens up a new mode there, whereby in frontier markets where you have probably fewer payers, what we would call payers and more grinders, the grinders can be basically compensated. And the grinders are actually really, really, really important in a free-to-play ecosystem. And so I see it basically like what free-to-play did 10 to 15 years ago with Zynga going from Facebook games to mobile, and now free-to-play mobile is more than half of the total gaming industry, bigger than PC combined. You could see blockchain gaming have a similar effect over the next 10 years. And that will only be good for regions like Africa, Southeast Asia, parts of LATAM. And hopefully, we'll be saying, more than 50% of gamers are from the global South because of the rise of this new form of gaming.
No, absolutely. I mean, it is super exciting, right? And as you mentioned, there's so much population growth, and sort of as James, as you were sort of mentioning as well, like how could we not be excited, right? There's so much opportunity here for that. I do want to jump to something that Jay, you mentioned around social good, and Tessy, I think you might have some thoughts on this too. But how do you think about the potential of blockchain gaming in Africa to create either harm, on the negative side, or social good and benefit on that side in our community?
Who you want me to answer that?
Sure. Maybe we can go with you first, Jay, and then Tessy, I'd love to hear from you.
Sure. So, I mean, I think there's always the potential for good and evil in every technology, right? Even the web, for all the good that the internet has brought, there's also porn and gambling, right? So that will always exist for sure. However, particularly on the continent, I think there's huge potential for what we call gaming for good on the blockchain side. So, for example, at Usiku Games in Kenya, we're launching a platform now that is made up of a portfolio of casual games that you would play while you're sitting in traffic on the way to work or between classes or waiting for a friend or relaxing in the evening, that kind of thing. And it's free to play, play to earn. And so the players, as they're getting accomplishments, are winning coins that go into their personal wallet. But unlike in Axie, you never directly withdraw those coins to your own personal wallet, your M-Pesa, whatever it may be. But what you can do is you can spend them on real world elements that increase your financial resilience and have a positive social impact. So funding for education, buying health insurance, buying crop insurance, long-term savings, funding your community in terms of refugee support through Impact Network and wildlife conservation through WWF. And so what we're trying to do is to take power of blockchain and the power of gamification and combine those two and then use them for good. And I think that if we do that and it's a compelling enough offering, then the sport paces of the world will fade into the background.
Pretty much the same as Jay, really. Like he said, I used the internet knife, by the way, the fact that the internet can be for good and also be used for bad things. And with Web 3.0, especially for women, I always have with women. In Nigeria, for example, there's not as much maternity leave for women, and that may mean they have to give up their jobs, for example. And this is another opportunity for them to tap into, to then find a way to earn a living and still do the things they love at the same time. In terms of us, we always focus on education. We have a platform called Code Funnels. So we engage children to learn to code using gamification and rewarding them, like Jay said, rather than taking it money, their parents can save that towards their future. So we're not just thinking about the present now, we're about the future as well. Those things that Jay touched on are big issues, for example, in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Tanzania. And sometimes you can't just copy and paste the solution as well. So we really need to be mindful about that. And we did a project in Nigeria that worked very well in Ghana. Tanzania, it turns out, well, girls can't do that in the first place. So through blockchain, through having that decentralization, then we can have communities that inform us in the directions to go in. So I think particularly blockchain, as long as we gauge it right, we make sure again that all the access, free to play is another great way, Jay said, to make sure people have access. Because Axie costs like what, $1,000 at the minute or something, if I'm right. Then that is cut off again in that digital divide. So by having free to play, that people can get the access. And that's what Web 3.0 is about. I also think about justifying it, because right now it's a lot in the shadows. I mean, you said something about should blockchain gaming be in Africa? It's already in Africa, but people are kind of like, what is this? How do we adopt it? And the words are a bit overwhelming sometimes. So I joined the Enact team for women, and we could talk about these terms. And I think it's gambling, for example, they're educating people while they give what these terms are. So we've got to bring the education element to it. It's got to do with the social good within infrastructure. And I think everything works in alignment. It can't be one without the other, really.
No, thanks, Tessy, and Jay as well. Some of that was breaking up a little bit for me, so I didn't catch everything, but I did. I do kind of want to jump into the education conversation in that topic, because I think that's really interesting. Yele, maybe, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that and how, education is part of, call it the on-ramping, right? And James, then maybe after we can hear, I'd be curious to hear how you're thinking about that with, in terms of your app that you're building.
Yeah, so apologies. I had some power issues as I was speaking, so I lost internet connection there, but that's Africa for you. But no, I think you're pretty much spot on in terms of sort of the importance and the need for education. So for us, like, we've always thought about Web3 and, crypto from a very holistic sort of landscape or like mindset, right? And so we think of gaming as kind of a activity on-ramp in sort of onboarding a lot of people and really understanding, through some of the engagements that they have, really understanding them as individuals, and then using that to sort of unlock more opportunities beyond just sort of purely gaming by itself, right? So initially, we're quite focused on through one of our products, Breach, that's focused on sort of crypto education. But our whole sort of process and how we onboard people at MVM actually allows us to understand users and sort of like our members beyond just how good are they at gaming. And so the way we think about it is, in the medium to long term, we're able to open up opportunities so that people can begin picking up different types of skill sets that weren't necessarily tied to gaming in the first place. So personally, when I think about like everything I've done in tech up until this point, like even the very first business that I started, there's always been a very strong education component to it. When you speak to any young African today, it's not just about like giving them money. They really want to sort of, the passion for learning and sort of earning skills that they can take elsewhere to, better themselves is actually the biggest driver, right? So, one of the things that really shocked me when we started MBM was we actually had play to earn, and we're like, oh, you can play Axie and, earn money from playing games. Or, here is a free course for you to learn how to become a blockchain developer, and like learn how to become a blockchain developer, like had way more applications than play a game for free. Maybe that's because, that idea of playing a game to make money is like almost too good to be true, right? I think almost anybody in the space would kind of agree with that like there's still a lot of skepticism, like where you're telling me I can play a game and make money. But, so for us, like we're very big on this idea of like the gamification of learning and education. And I think when we think about the future of like what we're doing with like MVM, I really believe that it's not going to be like the traditional gaming guilds that you have in the Philippines, like YGG or Merit Circle. It's going to be something that is completely different. And I'm not sure who said it on the panel. Someone said that you can't just kind of copy and paste models, right? So we've told, even in Web 2, the first generation of like African startups, we're trying to replicate sort of US or European startups and bring them to Nigeria, like other African countries. And we learned very quickly that those models wouldn't work, right? You have to understand the problems, the context to which, these problems exist for Africans, and then build African native solutions for these people, right? And so we're super excited to sort of continue to learn from like our members and really merge the gamification and like education, because really think that at the end of the day, what people want is skills that they can take and sort of go earn a living, whether that is like digitally or like physically, and then empower themselves. So for us, like that is actually like our end state. We think of gaming as kind of like that initial sort of on ramp, as opposed to the final, the final boss itself.
Awesome. I think that's great, Yele. And yeah, maybe I'll play the devil's advocate here, right? And just like sort of speak some facts. I think like let's look at it this way, right? Like play to earn, we're all saying it is amazing, but I'll play the devil's advocate a bit, and I'll tie in why education is so important. Say you're in the Philippines, you're a scholar, you're making $300 a month playing Axie Infinity 4 months ago. With current SLP prices, you're making maybe $30 a month now today. Now begs the question, as a scholar, do you still believe in Web3, going with that big difference? Or did you ever believe in Web3? Or were you doing that to actually just feed your family and play this game or whatever and treat it like another job, which is amazing. It's at your fingertips. Don't get me wrong. I'm not hitting on Axie or anything. They're the trailblazer. I love what they're doing, Jiho, etc. But sort of if we talk about education, that's what I see it bringing to the next step in Africa, where the last thing sort of Jambo wants to do, if trying to introduce the concept of play to earn to Africa, is play this game and earn this much money, even if you're amazing and we can create the infrastructure to actually do the payout and the money flow for you to get X amount of dollars every day, and teach you how to cash out your SLP in Binance pairs or etc. At the end of the day, that is still having someone play a game to earn capital. What we want to teach through education, why it's so important, is that Axie Infinity is just one game in the concept of play to earn. And play to earn is just one concept in the overarching thesis of Web3. And what we truly believe is that Web3 can help Africa leapfrog past Web2. So with that in mind, I'm not going to show too much on what Jambo is doing today, in Africa with what we're doing with education signups, and what we really see that as the first go-to-market strategy, because there really isn't a shortcut in Africa. You really have to teach people and gain every African's trust in various different regions about what Web3 is before you can actually introduce different concepts to them. So in my mind, guilds equals infrastructure. Back to sort of, saying, I think free to play, etc., is great. But if you actually want to reach, in my mind, to play to earn, you actually have to think about the whole infrastructure of, like, why did YGG succeed? It's a unicorn within a year. Why Gabby is such an OG and so amazing, and what he did in Southeast Asia with Jiho is because they taught every scholar how to use MetaMask, how to offload their SLP to local Filipino currency through Binance and etc. That's why, the scholar keeps 70%, and then YGG, et cetera, for the community manager, they keep 30%, because they teach you how to do that whole off-ramp. Otherwise, there would be no other way. So similarly in Africa, whichever guild there is, in my mind, that's the infrastructure. Let's forget the economics. What you're supposed to do as the guild is actually to teach the average person how you can play this game, from playing this game, off-ramp the currency that you make, whether it be Axie, Krabada, Pegasus, Star Sharks, etc., in a year or half a year, and then to, make that a reality. So in my mind, that's the only way to massive scale and to actually onboard this region of 1.4 billion people. It really wouldn't be from just like, you really have to tackle the education portion first. So I think you hit the hammer on the nail there, Jackson, on why education is so important.
Yes, I have a quick one. I'm probably the least crypto native person here, so I make a lot of corollaries to Web 2. So we love gaming, and in the beginning, no one was really interested in this story, but we really believe that gaming was basically a way to drive digital inclusion across the continent, which is, before you can learn to use the internet and a connected device for education or for, enterprise or things like that, typically you need to coat the medicine with some sugar, right? So when someone gets their first smartphone, like, what do they want to do? They want to chat with their friends, they want to find a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and they want to play games, right? So if you can have gaming on mobile as a way to get people online, get them engaged, at some point they'll figure out how to find the university they're looking for, or take the course, or learn how to, code. And so I see gaming, and particularly what sort of Yele and James are doing, as like an interesting corollary on the Web3 side. I think everyone here believes that Web3 has like massive power and potential long-term implications, and will empower people to do lots of things, including make a living for themselves long-term. But one of the best ways to get people to learn the basics, to get a wallet, to learn about on-ramping, off-ramping, different protocols, how to keep things safe, is to, start with something fun. And that's why I'm excited that there's been kind of this intersection between Web3 and gaming, because it's just like a really natural way for people to get on board doing something that they enjoy, as opposed to, forcing them.
Jackson, can I jump in for a second? I want to unfortunately disagree with James a little bit, I think. And I know he was playing devil's advocate before, so I absolutely agree on the value of education. I think that has to be done. And I think teaching people about wallets and on-ramping, off-ramping, I think all that is absolutely important. But, he said, he equates guilds with education. I actually equate guilds with slavery. I'm really against guilds and scholarships in the African context. I think they're horrible things. I think that, as particularly with the history that we have in Africa, when the slaves, got off the boat in America, the boss handed you a shovel for free. That did not make him a good guy. And so the guilds that give you an Axie, and pretend that they're doing you a favor, empowering you to come into Web3. And then in some cases I've seen in Africa taking 50, 60% of the earnings in exchange for people sitting for 6 hours a day just clicking. I mean, Axie is not a fun game. That's my personal opinion. Sorry. And I'm not trying to like diss on all Web3 and blockchain games. I think there's a ton of potential. I'm building them myself. Within PAG, we have several ongoing. But you know, I think Axie succeeded and got as huge as it did because it was first out of the gate, and people thought, wow, that's really cool. And so it had a nice peak. We'll see when the new version comes out what it's going to be like. But truly, I think in the African context, I think scholarships and guilds are, you know, nigh on evil.
So I would like to sort of chip in here, and I think the conversation is just about to get really spicy.
Are you about to defend me, Yele?
I love Jay kind of like coming in, you know, with that. But I definitely understand Jay's concerns, right? One of the things that we talk a lot about at MVM is this concept of QOL, which means quality of life, and it's kind of a popular term in gaming. We're actually very proud when a previous scholar earns enough for them to go on and own their own assets, right? And we've had, you know, a number of folks in the guild actually begin to do that, right? And even now that the price of Axie has actually dropped, we're designing the guild in a way that the players have the end state for them to actually earn enough for them to want to, you know, they don't need to be renting what's it called, NFT from us. And when we actually spoke to our community, like, it wasn't about the earning. They were part of this group because for them, there's no place for them to hang out and be with like other gamers on the continent, right? So they loved being a part of MVM. They love being a part of our community. They, you know, they want to wear our swag. They want to be a part of this thing. So it's like a clan, it's their tribe. It's like a digital nation for gamers. And that's kind of why they're part of the guild, not just about like playing Axie. Right now, Axie has actually dropped from people earning maybe like hundreds of dollars a day, a month, to maybe like $20 to $50 a month. And the people still playing the games, right? So within MVM, we have about maybe 3 games that we're supporting. We have a bunch of other games that we're also supporting that are not public yet. And people are playing games just because, not even because they want to earn money. They're just playing because, you know, they love the community, right? So I think it'll be hard to paint every guild, you know, with the same sort of like brush, right? Guilds and clans have existed, you know, long before like play to earn. And so with us, you know, maybe we have a different opinion in terms of what James said, in terms of like, we seeing ourselves as infrastructure. We see ourselves as just like a digital tribe or a community of gamers to sort of find people like themselves and just actually enjoy being a part of that particular community. So that's like, you know, our own kind of, you know, view on being a guild. But funny enough, though, I'll play devil's advocate on myself. I actually say that MVM is not a guild, right? Like, we don't, like, we talk about being an anti-guild because, you know, so I kind of get where Jay's coming from, to be honest. But I think it would be difficult to paint every guild with the same brush. Yeah.
Yeah, and quickly, I think it's about diversification of that game. You know, like with Axie, for example, I would find it boring. But like I said, with one of our Code Fun House, there's gaming in there, but then you're actually learning how to code. So it's about combining other things people already love to do, like skincare as well. You can gamify that. And I know, Jackson, you've got a move to earn game, like a Pokemon type game on investment table. So it's about diversifying, and that's why you have to have them in, for example, by the way, guys. That way some of those ideas come through and people can have fun and earn. I agree with James, definitely. It is about education. I'm sure I've got my uncle in the crowd, and he hit crypto way before me because he was just getting that knowledge, and he was always ringing me like, Tess, have you heard about this? Have you heard about that? I was like, that was really key for me to step in. Even though I was a computer scientist, a lot of things were still in the shadows. So I agree from both points of views, and I think we really need to keep trying again, and again, seeing what model fits best for different countries as well. Because there's like 55 different countries. What floats one country's boat doesn't float another country's boat. And I think that's another thing. I think just to move away from if it's boring or if it's slavery, etc., is that not just to focus on the gamers, but gaming encompasses other sectors. So we're going to have the music, we're going to have people who are creating the art, we're going to have a lot of other different sectors earn from creating these games as well. So let's keep that in mind and not just focus on the gamers. There's a lot of other sectors that are going to benefit from this. And I say I've seen a switch in every sector, guys. I've been with every sector, fashion, I've been with music, and I've seen all the different shifts. And there's this massive appetite right now for untold narratives. Like you saw, CK Love One, he was like top 100 Billboard, because people really want to hear something different. People want to play something different, even dance moves on Instagram. So we really have a metaverse to build here, not just the gamers. I think we're focusing in too much on just the gamers. I think everyone's going to benefit from this.
Awesome. Maybe Jackson, I know we're coming up on time. If I could do a quick 1 minute. I love how Cordel is just enjoying this. He's laughing. He has his mic off. He's just enjoying. He just has popcorn. No, Jay. First of all, I appreciate your your feedback, and I actually might be the most objective one here because Jambo is not building a guild, and we're not publishing games, right? Publishing the best free to play games like Cordel, Carry First, and Yele, who guild or not, MDM is providing great infrastructure for players. So I sort of want to zoom out, from just this question. It's sort of like, no matter if, it's like I'm a LeBron fan and you're a Westbrook fan, but either way, we can agree that the Lakers are trash this season. In this way, what I mean is that it's all about
there are no more Westbrook fans.
So it's about adoption of gaming in Africa, right? And in my mind, if we're talking about, the thesis being that Africa will have as much disruption in the next 2 decades, based on population, based on any statistic you want to throw out there, as to other emerging markets like Latam, Southeast Asia, Africa, and China in the last decade. And second, that Africa can leapfrog Web 2 through Web 3, then it's just about the type of game that will actually get adopted in Africa. In my mind, anyone that can provide infrastructure and help the adoption is amazing, because I've just seen so much, being ethnically Chinese, seeing Tencent, and the superpower conglomerate, the largest tech ecosystem fund in all of Asia that it is, it uses gaming to sort of dominate all of Asia and then Southeast Asia as well, through Garena, through PUBG, et cetera. And the grinders in there, to what Cordel said, the people who actually play the games to sell, different NFTs, which is why NFTs are amazing in gaming, because it actually represents your blood, sweat, time that you put into the game to be able to quantify that monetarily. Like, that's what's amazing. So in my mind, anyone that can, through infrastructure, help the adoption is great, which in my mind is just one word: education. So I think I think we all agree on education. We all agree on adoption in Africa, whether it be guilds or not, or et cetera. That was just an example. So that's why I appreciate your feedback. So I want to just put that in there real quick.
Awesome. We are up on time, everyone. I think this has been like a really lively conversation. Honestly, I don't think we really needed myself as a moderator here. But really wonderful to hear everyone's perspectives and opinions and leaning in and sharing, right? Because I think that's what's really important. We didn't even get to questions that some of the audience had, unfortunately. But thank you guys. So thank everyone, right, for the time. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Jackson.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks a lot, Jackson. It's a great conversation.